So if you want to know how to add a table of contents to your blog post inside of WordPress, but you want to make sure that it's the best possible solution, this video is going to really help you. Now, I searched high and low. I went to Google and I typed in best table of contents plugins for WordPress. I clicked through pretty much every result on the first, second, and third page even, because I was wanting to make sure that when somebody landed on my blog post, they could navigate it in the most user-friendly way possible. Now, I even went as far as to set up a staging website to install all the most common top best performing table of contents plugins in the WordPress repository, and still after installing all of them, I even bought one from Code Canyon. They never quite met exactly what I was looking for, and they didn't really seem like they were the most user-friendly option. So what I did is I went and implemented somewhat of a custom solution, but it's not actually it's not a custom solution. You don't need to go and write any code or anything like this. I'm going to give you all the code that you can just copy and paste into your WordPress website, and it should work. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how this table of contents plugin works in my website. I'm going to run you through why I feel this is the best way to go and add a table of contents plugin to your blog post, why this one just is the most user-friendly, how it works on a mobile phone. So we'll run through all that very, very quickly. Then I'll show you how to copy and paste the code into your website, and it should just work out of the box. So firstly, why do I think this is the best way to add a table of contents to your website? So here we are on probably my longest blog post on my website where I review Bricks Builder. Now, as I went through and I was writing this blog post, I knew that I wanted to put in a lot of information into this blog post because your page builder, it's going to be the bread and butter of your website. You want to make sure you choose the right one. And so I really wanted to share my experiences of why I like Bricks Builder so much. And it ended up being a very long blog post. This one here, if we have a look, it ended up being like, 9,100 words. And what I wanted to do is, because this is just going to be so big, I really needed to make sure that when somebody landed on this blog post, they could just, don't look at the scroll bar and go, this is just way too long, and just exit and cause a bounce and not have someone consume my content. So I needed to make sure the table of contents was optimized for usability. So this is a blog post that really stemmed my investigation into trying to find the best solution for adding a table of contents plugin. And just quickly, while we're here in the WordPress editor, if you want to see how I add this table of contents here in the editor, which helps me better organize my blog post, because as I write, so let's just say we add a new heading here. See, when I add a new heading, it's going to update here. So I'll go like H2, this is my new heading, and then we'll go H3 like that. It really helps me organize and write longer blog posts in a more organized manner, which is better for the usability and experience. I actually covered how I managed to achieve this in the most recent video here. So hacking WordPress to write blog posts faster. I'm going to leave a link to that in the description below as well if you want to go check that out. But this blog post, it is long, and this is the one that I really needed to focus on honing in to make it, really easy to read. So if we go back here, the way that you go and land on this from say Google or a YouTube video, and you see the scroll bar, you're probably going to want to jump to specific sections. So if you go down, and if I mouse over, I don't have to click. So on a desktop, a user can land here and they can hover, and that will open up the table of contents. So let's just say I land on this page and I hover and that opens up, and I'm reading through and I want to just find something that, jumps out to me, and I go, okay, I want to know more about the benefits that Bricks Builder offers to web developers. So how to define secondary queries. So if I click on this, it scrolls to that area, and then I can see the heading there. So I've purposely made this not fill the entire height, so user gets that feedback that it has scrolled to where they want to go, and it's highlighted here in a nice contrasting color. And then if they want to get into the content, they can just move their mouse over to here and they can click, and that will hide it. Or if I go back and hover here, it reopens. Another thing that they can do is we can go over to here, and let's just say we want to go to, so let's just say we go down to Bricks Builder is fast for visitors. So it uses containers and Flexbox. If we click on this, we scroll to it. We can also close it by coming down to here and clicking on the button. So two different ways to close it there. And some people have different habits. So that's why I sort of covered that there. And then they're reading down and they read the content, and then they get to the next heading, and maybe that's irrelevant to what they want to know. So they go back to here, they hover on that button, it opens, they go back, and maybe they're going down to something like conditional logic. So they click there. So now we're there, and then they click out of it, and now they're reading about the conditional logic. Now, the next thing that I want to cover is I mentioned that this here, when you go down here, this leaves space up here. So this isn't set as a fixed height. This is a variable height. So if we right click and go inspect element here, and we have a look at this container, I've set it to max height of 70 view height. So that's a variable, and that changes. So if the view height gets smaller, then this will get smaller, but it's going to be 70% of the view height. And then this would be like 28% because we have some down there. But long story short, if we go down here and we make the view height shorter, you can see that it maintains that there. So it still leaves a gap there. So even on a small smaller device, a person can click and still see that it has in fact scrolled to where they want to go. Now, if we go back down here and click there like that. So if you go to my website and you check this on a mobile phone, or you go on the mobile phone and you go landscape view, you will still see that you have a gap up here, and it's a variable height. So it's that 70% of the viewport height. So that's how we're handling this space here and the height of this. And then it just has an overflow auto, so which gives it the scroll bar here if it exceeds that height. If we were to go up, for example, and go to a shorter blog post, so say tutorials and tips, and then we go down here and search for table of contents. So table of contents to Bricks Builder. So if we click into here and go down, this is actually the code we're going to be looking at today. Now this works with any WordPress theme, with any WordPress page builder, but I've specifically going to show you how to set up using Bricks Builder because that's the page builder that I use. But you can see if we hover over here, we only have two headings here. So the PHP, which is this heading here, and then the CSS. So click there and click there. If we go to one that's maybe medium length, so for example here, my autonomy review. So if we go down and we go table of contents, you can see that this isn't exactly hitting the 70%. So it's just as high as it needs to be, and there's no scroll bar like that. So if I add it to this blog post over time and add more headings, then this would go up until it gets to the 70% of the view height, and then we'd get the scroll bar. Now, the last thing that I'll show you quickly is how this would work on a mobile phone, and then we're going to jump into how to set this up. So on a mobile phone, it's going to be like this. So if we go down, it's stickied at the bottom. So as people are scrolling, we also have the reading progress bar up the top, which shows you how much is left in the blog post as a reader. If you're also curious how to set that up with any WordPress theme, with any page builder without using a plugin, I actually show you how to do that again for free in this video here, reading progress bar, WordPress, no plugins. So I'll leave a link to this video in the description below as well. But this is how my website is currently working on a mobile device. So you get the reading progress bar up the top, which lets you know how much more of the blog post you have left. And then if we go down here to the table of contents, we can go to where we need to go. So let's go to the autonomy review up the top, and that scrolls back to the top. So the reading progress bar updates as we click here, and then we can click there. It just helps with the, a long blog post on a mobile phone, you get a bit disorientated. I feel like this helps you know where in the blog post you are exactly, and this helps you navigate to the area. So I think the reading progress bar plus the table of contents work hand in hand to offer really good usability. But yeah, let me know in the comments below if you have a reading progress bar. I find they're helpful for me. So now that we know how this works, let's go ahead and set this up. If you go to my website, WordPress tutorials and tips, and you go to table of contents, I have this one here, table of contents to Bricks Builder. So if we click into there, we get 2 bits of code. We can see as well from the table of contents here, we get a bit of PHP and a bit of CSS that we're going to copy and paste. And again, I know this says to Bricks Builder, but this works for any WordPress theme with any WordPress page builder. So this is the PHP code. I'm going to go through copying and pasting this, making sure it works, and then I'll break down how the code works after we do that. But we just have this PHP here, and then if we go down, there's a little bit of JavaScript here that we output as well. Then we go down and the CSS styles that. Firstly, let's go and add this PHP to our staging website. So here we are inside my staging website, which is a clone of my main website that I use for testing purposes and tutorials. So if we go to WordPress product reviews and we search for Bricks Builder and we click into this review, this is that article that we've been looking at during this video with the really long content, 9,000 words, and the big table of contents. So if we go down here, the table of contents isn't currently outputting. Now you will see that there's a table of contents button that's fixed at the bottom of the website. Now I'm going to show you how I've set that up with Bricks Builder, but I didn't include it in the tutorial because basically all you need to do with whatever page builder you're using is add a button to your website and fix it at the bottom, which most people will know how to do. And again, if you don't, I'm going to show you how to do that in a second with Bricks Builder, but I can't cover how you do it with Beaver Builder, Elementor, and all these other different page builders. So for now, I've just said you need to have a button that's fixed to the bottom, and then we're going to add our table of contents to this button. Now, if we go up, I'll show you how we've added that to Bricks Builder. So if I go back to my dashboard, and then we go down to Bricks and Templates, and I go down to my single template. So this is my single with the sidebar. If I go edit with Bricks, so now we're in the editor. If I click on this button here, so all I've done is I've added a button here that is under my content area. So Gutenberg contents output here in this module inside Bricks Builder. Then I've just designed this under that. So that's just this, this author box here, this container. Then I output the comments, and then we have our table of contents here. And inside our table of contents container, we have our div here, and we have a button. Now the button is obviously for when you hover or you click on it. And the div here is what we're going to inject our table of contents into using a little bit of JavaScript. So this here is empty for now, but all you need to do is just have a button and a div that you can just inject your table of contents into. But I'll show you how that works a bit later in this video. Now, once you have your button and your empty div that you're going to inject your table of contents into. The parent container, we want to fix that to the bottom or sticky it to the bottom. So if we go here inside Bricks Builder, it's very easy. So I click on this container and then I go under the style tab. So layout, if we click into here, we can see that this is positioned sticky and from the bottom 0. So what that means, if we go to the front end of our actual website, what that's doing is as we scroll down and we get to that element, it stickies to the bottom 0 pixels and it's always there. Now, sticky is a CSS positioning, it's like relative, absolute, etc. Sticky is its own one. And it's really useful because what happens is once we get to scrolling past the table of contents button or the element, so this container that houses both of these, once we start scrolling past where it is, it will stop being sticky to the bottom. So as I scroll down, see how it stops there and it stays in its place where I've added it. But as we go back up, as it hits the bottom 0 pixels, it stickies to the bottom. So that's how we're getting it to sticky at the bottom there. So once you set up your button and this div here, now we need to just copy and paste a little bit of code and it should be working. So back in the staging website, I go to WP Codebox. This is where I add all my custom CSS, JavaScript, PHP, where I add all my snippets. I've been talking about a lot on my channel now, so I don't want to go through it too much here. But basically, if you're not using it, you really need to check it out. It is a massive time saver and allows you to customize your website in a much more organized, faster way. So I'm going to leave a link to WP Codebox in the description below, and it's $39 for a lifetime deal. So here I am back in the blog post, and if we go down, so first is the PHP. So you just want to grab all of this, and we're going to go down to there, so copy. Then back here in WP Codebox, it's going to be PHP, and we're going to load it on the front end, and then here I'm just going to paste everything there. So that's all pasted, and then we'll click save, and we'll go over to here and click save again. Now, if you're only going to be outputting this on your blog post, what you can do here in WP Codebox is you could come under here where to run the snippet, and we could go custom, and then we could go open the condition builder, and then add a condition. Location is the front end, and then add here, and the current post type is post. So this is only going to run this PHP and output our table of contents on our blog posts. So we'll click save changes and then save. So let's go ahead and back here, let's refresh the page here and see if anything's happened. So if we go down, nothing looks like it's happened. If we go here, nothing has happened there. So let's go back and let's add our next snippet, and it's going to be table of contents, and it'll be CSS, and it's going to be over here, it's going to be CSS, and let's create an external file for this. Let's minify this, and then let's load this in the header, and here we'll go custom, open condition builder, add here, only load on the front end, and then we're going to do current post type is post, so only on our post on the front end, save changes, and then back to our blog post, let's go down and let's copy this CSS, so copy all of it, down, down, down. Okay, so copy and then paste, and then we'll save, and then we'll turn that on and save. So now if we go back here and we reload the page, so now if we hover, the reason that it's not showing here is because this, if we right click and go and inspect element, this is another custom post type. So I have a reviews post type, and then I have my blog post. So if we go over to here to my tutorials and tips, which are my blog post, and we go to something like sticky sidebar in CSS, if we click here and we go and do this, now it's showing there. So all I need to do is go back to here, and then I'm going to open the condition builder, and I'm just going to stack my post type for my reviews. So here, and I'll click save, and then we'll save that. And then the PHP will open this up and we'll do that as well. So we'll go down, and that is the review, save and save. So now that's done. So now if we go back to our review post type and reload the page, now if we do this, now it's showing. So if we go down a bit and then someone goes like this, they can have a look at all of it. If we click, that's going to scroll, click there, go down. We can hover, we can click there, we can click back on here, it closes. So now this is all set up. So what I want to do now is go through the code, show you what it's doing and how you can customize it to better work with your website. So if we go back to WP Codebox, let's start with the CSS. So this is going to be very straightforward. If we just collapse this pane, you can go, it's really simple. So if we go down, you're probably just going to want to change the colors. So here I have a variable from Bricks Builder, but if we just make this something like red and we make this something like white, we could just save and then go back and reload the page. Now, when we hover, we have it red with white background for the active link. And it's just CSS, so I'm not going to go too much into that now, but let's jump over to this PHP snippet here. So first thing I want to point out, if we go to this URL up here in the comment, it takes you to this page here, which is just a forum post on the WordPress.org forums. And if we go down, it's this bit of code here. If we expand this, it's on the content filter, and I just copied and pasted this. So if we go back here, it'll be a bit easy to see. So let's look at what this PHP code is doing. So it's running on a PHP filter inside of WordPress, and it's the content filter, which is an out-of-box native filter that comes with WordPress. And then this function's running. Okay, so this is it. So what this is doing is as it goes to output the content that we've wrote using Gutenberg, it's going to find all our H2s and our H3s. That's what that's doing there. And it's going to add an ID to those headings. And the ID is going to be what that heading is. So the text of the heading is going to be saved as an ID. So I'll show you what that looks like on the front end. So here we are, and this is our content area for our blog post. Now, if we have a look, Bricks Builder Lifetime Deal. So this is going to be a H2. So if I right click and go inspect element here, we can see that this is a H2. So the text is Bricks Builder Lifetime Deal. And now there's an ID on that H2 that says Bricks Builder Lifetime Deal. So if I go ahead and if I was to disable this code and save it, so now this isn't going to run. If I go back here and I reload the page, look what happens here. So I'll reload and we can see it's just a H2. So there's no ID. So that is what this code is doing. I'll go ahead and enable it again. As the content is being output, this code is going through, finding all our H2s and 3s, and then getting the text of that heading and saving it as the ID for that particular heading. Now, important to note at this point is there's 2 to 3. So if you want to go and run your table of contents for just your H2s and H3s, you would do exactly what's here on the screen. If you want to also include your H4s in your table of contents, you would come into here and update it for your H2 to H4, 2 to H4. And you also want to make sure that this is going to go through and loop through our content and do what I just showed you, where it adds the ID to the heading. But then you also want to come down here and make sure this code here, it also matches. So if we have it running on H2, 3, and 4 up here, you want to make it the same here. So we do this and then we do H4. So you just want to make sure that whatever you're targeting up here is the same that's down here. Now, if we go down, we have a little bit of JavaScript that I'm outputting here using the footer hook. You can go and add this JavaScript however you feel best. I just did this for now. It's very quick copy and paste and made this tutorial a lot easier. So TalkBot, it's just a JavaScript library, or it's a plugin. So if you go to Google and type in TalkBot and we go over to here, this is the example that they give you here. So this is how it works out of the box. So I'm just leveraging that. And if you scroll down a little bit, there's a few options in TalkBot that you can customize. So you can go there, you can go to this URL and have a look at the options here. I customized them a little bit to how I wanted it to use. But if we go back, the main things that you need to be careful of are the following. So this option here, so TalkBot Selector, so TalkBot-Talk. So this is going to be the CSS class of the empty div that you added into the page builder. So if we go back to our template here, if I click on this empty div that we're injecting the table of contents into, if I go up to here under the style in Bricks Builder and I go down to the CSS class and we go down, so this is it. So the CSS class is TalkBot-TOC. And if we go back here, TalkBot-TOC. So the Talk selector, that's what you're injecting your table of contents into. So just put the CSS class of the div that you want to input your table of contents into. The next one is the content selector. So primary-post-content. This is going to be the CSS class for the div or container that your post content is output into. So if we go back to our template here and I click on here, so this is the primary post content. So when the page tries to render this bricks template, the Gutenberg content here is output into a div or an element that has the class primary post content. So all you need to do is wherever you're outputting the content of your post, that's going to be your content selector there. So just put the class there. Now the heading selector, this is just how many levels deep you want to have your table of contents go to. So if you did something like if we got rid of this and just said H2 here, it would only create a table of contents with our H2s on the page inside this div. So as the page loads, it would find all the H2s that are inside our content, and then it would create a table of contents and inject it into here. So if I go ahead and save this and go back to here, so these are H2s up here and these are H3s. So if I just reload the page here and now we hover on the table of contents, see there's no H3s. It's only a 1 level deep hierarchy here. So it depends on the type of post that you're writing, how you organize your blog post, how you want to go and do that. What I would say is if you're only creating a table of contents with your H2 elements here, summary, you want to make this match this up here. So if we do H2 to 3s there, then over here you want to do H2 to H3. So just make sure they match. So I'm just going to save that for now. And you also want to update it over here. So H2 to 3 like that. So save. Now, if you have a sticky header, you'll want to tweak these settings here. You probably want to make them the same, but I just play around with this. For me personally, these values work here. It's going to really depend on how you have your header set up on your blog post. So I won't go into that in too much detail. If you want to learn more about exactly what these two settings do, go to the TalkBot documentation and you can see what they do here. So smooth scroll duration, offset, scroll end. So you get a better understanding from the documentation there. Now, scroll depth, if we go back to here and I search for this, you can see the sections that are hidden will open and close as you scroll to the headings in them. So what this is referring to, if we go up to here, see how this menu, so if we go down to examples, we don't see the sub menu here until we reach it and then it reveals itself. So as we go down, examples, so that doesn't, but as we go to requirements, see what happens, requirements and fixed headers shows. So if we go up, it hides. If we go down, it shows. So I personally just want them to show on the page without showing and hiding. So that's why I have it set to 3. So if we go back here, see how these are showing these sub menus on page load. They don't show and hide as I scroll down the page. But if you want it to work that way, you could come back to here and set it to something like 2 and save, and then go back and reload the page. And so now if I go here, so now as I scroll down the page, you can see that it's showing and hiding the sub menus as I hit the parent, but they're not all loading and revealing themselves on the page until I get to that specific section. So it really depends on how you want it to work. I personally feel that from a usability perspective, this table of contents and the design and the way that it works is structured in a way that it works really good with a lot of content in there. And so that's why I prefer just to show the sub menu so people can see all the headings in this one box instead of having to click here and see, what are the subheadings under here? What are the subheadings under here? So it's all going to be about personal preference. So that's the options there for the TalkBot JavaScript plugin. Now, if we go down, now this next one here, the target div, so get element by ID, and then it's TalkBot. So it's just the same element as this. So this is the class, so it's dot. And then this is getting it by the ID. So all you need to do is where you've added this class here for the Talk Selector, which again is under our template. So back here in Bricks, our empty div that we're injecting our table of contents into under the Style tab and CSS, if we go down. So we already have the CSS class here, and I just make that. So I just copy it from here and put it there. So the ID and the class is exactly the same. And then back here, your code, this just matches that, and you're good to go. And then this button, you want to make sure that the ID of your button for the table of contents, you put the ID there. So this button toggle, so the ID of my button, if we go back to Bricks Builder, if I click on my button here, the ID is in fact that. So I just set the ID on this button and then I copy it there and go and then paste it there. And then if we go through the code, basically what it's doing is when you mouse over the button, it reveals the table of contents. When you click out of it, it collapses. So you don't really need to customize any of that. So the rest you don't really need to touch. Now I'm going to be fleshing out this blog post when I have a little bit more time because I'm about to go on holidays for 10 days, so I won't be by the computer. But I just wanted to get this out because I know a lot of people are probably wanting to add a table of contents like this. And so today I just have the code there, but I will be fleshing it out in more detail. If you copy and paste the code today and there's something that you're not quite sure how to do, definitely leave a comment below, because when I go and write this actual blog post, I can make sure to include, the problem that you had as a heading, because probably other people have. Maybe I didn't explain it well. And again, I know that this says Bricks Builder when you click through to the blog post, but this does work with any page builder, any theme. And don't forget, if you're somebody that's trying to write blog posts and you want to make the process easier for yourself as you're writing, this video here is going to show you how to create that sticky sidebar in the Gutenberg editor that looks like this. And it really makes a night and day difference for me personally into how I can go and write blog posts and write them a lot faster in a more structured way, which is better for the user. So I'll put a link to that video on the screen now, and I'll see you guys in that video.